Some of you will be saying, who is Tom Owen? I am a resident of the Highlands. I am a 46-year employee of Archives and Special Collections at the University of Louisville. And incidentally, and part-time, for 23 years of 27, in the 90s and into this century, I served on the Metro Council and its predecessor, the Board of Aldermen. But I am here this morning with you to talk about the history of the Highlands and to talk about the history, briefly, of this congregation, this parish. There is a common thread in the history of the Highlands. We are defined historically by the turnpikes. This is the Bardstown, Baxter-Bardstown Road is the turnpike to B-A-R-D apostrophe S, Bardstown. It was there early on, and that turnpike was marked by a toll house every 5 years. And as the city grew, that toll house moved further out. That first toll house moved further out Bardstown Road. The other turnpike is the turnpike to the rural Jefferson County community of Newburgh. And that's Barrett Avenue, Castlewood, around to Newburgh Road, to the rural community of Newburgh. Those two turnpikes, ancient roads, define the Highlands. The Highlands became the Highlands because of the streetcar, the mule-drawn streetcar. And that streetcar led to the creation of the modern word subdivisions, the older word additions. One addition, 2 streets at a time. Someone would buy a piece of farmland and they would subdivide it and build houses, one addition a time. But we were created here because of that mule-drawn streetcar. The immediate area around St. Brigid was even more directly defined by the streetcar. In fact, in 1873, just as the streetcar came up Baxter Hill and Broadway Hill into the Highlands, the 1873 became the loop for that first streetcar line out of downtown. Where was the loop? Next door. In fact, by 1884, a massive brick structure existed there where the Starbucks and the Walgreens are, all the way pushing this way towards St. Brigid. That was a multi-car, mule-drawn streetcar barn that became electrified and ultimately rented out the front corner to a bank. But that, in fact, let me tell you something. If you walk out of Starbucks today and turn left and go down Highland Avenue past the entrance to the pickup at the Walgreens and then see a wooden fence, if you go 1.5 feet further and look into the yard of that first home on Highland Avenue, you will see a brick wall. It's the old brick wall of that 1884 streetcar barn. So you are defined historically by the coming of that streetcar. In ancient times, and I mean soon after the Commonwealth of Kentucky was formed, this immediate area was defined by the Preston family home, which faced the turnpike. It was literally here at Winter Avenue and Baxter Avenue. In fact, we believe the log structure may still be in the house that is very close to the Winter Baxter Avenue. That ancient plantation was the Preston land, and the Preston land was this entire area. In fact, the Preston and the daughter, Johnston, defined the subdividing of this entire area. 5 streets in this area, including Hepburn, were named for relatives or members of the Preston Johnston family. Over on Goddard Avenue, that gigantic home that is there, a multi-family home now. Goddard Avenue between Baxter reaching down to Castlewood, that massive home was the Johnston home. But later, it was the Von Bury's home, a Louisville banker. And the street in front of this church, St. Brigid, was Von Bury's Avenue. So it is into this setting, along the turnpike, along the streetcar corridor. And what defined the streetcar corridor? Wherever there was a streetcar stop, you begin to see a commercial building built. Frequently, there would be an apartment above, or there would be a house behind, and in front, there would be a commercial building built. And that was the process of additions, subdivisions one at a time, and the commercialization of the Baxter-Bardstown Road corridor. And so it is in this setting that we plant this church. This church began, and you know, I have not read a history of this parish, and I'm only going by one clip that I found in the Courier-Journal. It suggests that this church was intended to be placed on this corner in 1873, but in fact, they laid the footings for a foundation and then withdrew back to Payne Street on Baxter Avenue, and that is when the congregation was formed, opening on Baxter Avenue between Payne Street and what's now called Rogers. On that side, the other side of Baxter Avenue, that's where St. Brigid begins in 1874. But then the intention came again, and in 1890, this parish begins solidly on this corner. First with a temporary brick structure with a school and a worship center combined in the same building. And then by 1913, this magnificent edifice center of worship is created. The stone outside the church reads 1913. And I believe maybe when this facility was made more able in the front, that there is even a stone down in that area there that even says more. I reached down and tried to look down in the hole to see if that was indeed the case. You know, this parish from the beginning was raising money to hold a bazaar, to pave Hepburn Avenue in these early days. In addition to that, helped pave Von Bury's Avenue in front of St. Brigid. And so it is that this place, a shaping of memory place, this magnificent structure was built to endure in the shaping of memory into the future. Those of you who have a little gray hair, and there are several of us, will remember in this immediate area, will remember the Scotties. Oh, before that it was the Stidens over at Highlands and Baxter Avenue, Bardstown Road. We'll remember the two banks that once existed on the corner. We'll remember the Gulf Station that was across the street. We'll remember after 1938 the Walgreens and the Western Auto and the Kroger store over across Hepburn Avenue. Or we'll remember after 1946 the Airway Theater over on Bardstown Road. This community and the parks that were accessible. After 1910, the Tyler Park, or after 1890, the Cherokee Park. So it is that this parish and this magnificent structure built to endure into the future, and this community becomes an incubator of memories. Last night, I was talking to my granddaughter, and I was remembering with her. Why do you tell stories about the past? You tell stories about the past to carry the story into the future. Is that not true? Why else would I remember with my granddaughter something that we shared as a family? It is to carry the story into the future. So it is, I am able to come and to share with you the history of this nurturing place and the history of this magnificent structure that was built solidly to endure into the future. I don't know whether this is appropriate or not, but when I'm talking about the Olmsted Parks in Louisville, and this is a little hard to follow, so follow me. I say, if I'm on a bus tour and I'm going by Shawnee Park, you know what I say? It could have been built so much cheaper. It could have been built so much cheaper. My brother-in-law, I make it up, in 1890, my brother-in-law was a landscape architect, and he could have done it for half the price. That didn't happen here. Built to endure, to become a place of memory, a place of storytelling into the future. Thank you very much.